In 2025, two significant documentaries about Hurricane Katrina were released to commemorate its 20-year anniversary. Hurricane Katrina: Race Against Time and Katrina: Come Hell and High Water. Katrina was the most catastrophic disaster in the city's modern history. It killed over 1,800 people, displaced hundreds of thousands, destroyed entire neighborhoods, and caused an estimated $125 billion in damage. The storm exposed deep systemic failures in emergency response, infrastructure, and social inequality. The levee failures, the Superdome crisis, and the aftermath became defining moments in American history. The scale of transformation it caused, how it changed the city's demographics, culture, economy, and politics. You know, before Hurricane Katrina, entrepreneurship in New Orleans wasn't about startup incubators or venture capital. It was about survival and spirit. In neighborhoods like the Lower Ninth, Gentilly, and Central City, folks made a way, often with very little. You had barbershops that doubled as meeting spots, food stands that kept whole blocks fed, home-based businesses from hair salons to catering, built out of kitchens and garages. Most didn't have access to loans or investors or even the kind of recognition that makes headlines. But they had something deeper, a culture of hustle, of creativity, of community pride. Owning a business wasn't just about money, it was about dignity, about saying, "This is mine, I built this." Then the storm came, and in a matter of hours, that sense of ownership, that stability was gone. Katrina didn't just flood the streets, it washed away entire local economies. Thousands of small, Black-owned businesses were destroyed. Some never reopened. Some owners never came back. But here's the thing about New Orleans, and about the people who call it home. They don't stay down long. From the wreckage came something powerful. A new generation of entrepreneurs began to rise, younger, sharper, rooted in purpose. They weren't just rebuilding storefronts, they were rebuilding identity. You saw folks launching food trucks that honored Creole tradition, tech startups focused on equity, nonprofits teaching business skills to people who'd lost everything. The city became a kind of experiment, a testing ground for what resilience really looks like. But not everyone got to share in that revival. As outside investors and new residents moved in, many locals found themselves on the outside of the very comeback they started. The question became, who gets to rebuild New Orleans? The story of entrepreneurship before and after Katrina, what was lost, what was reborn, and how the people of New Orleans continues to turn pain into power and tragedy into innovation. Because in this city, every storm has a lesson, and every comeback starts with a dream. Welcome to the Black Men Speak podcast that highlights ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. I am your host, Keith Dent. In this special Pinnacle of Color series, we have titled it The Rebuilders, How Katrina Forged a New Generation of Entrepreneurs. And today we're going to talk to Spencer Davis. Born and raised in New Orleans, 9th Ward, Spencer is a proud native New Orleanian and a graduate of the University of New Orleans, where he earned his Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Over the past 2 decades, he has led large-scale federal and infrastructure programs across the U.S., managing billions of capital projects and serving as a trusted program executive for U.S. Customs and Border Protection and NASA. Today, Spencer is a co-founder of Bypasslines, an innovative online ordering platform helping food vendors and restaurants modernize their operations, and is the CEO of Premium Asset Solutions, an AI agent builder empowering businesses to automate and scale through intelligent systems. His work bridges engineering, technology, and entrepreneurship, driven by a lifelong commitment to solving real-world problems and creating opportunities for others in his community. Spencer, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into, and I know this may be a little challenging and difficult, but take us back to where you were when Hurricane Katrina hit, and briefly, because I know there's probably a lot, what do you remember most about that moment?
Going back, I think that what I remember most was the lack of urgency when it first was announced. I was literally in a pair of boxers. I can tell you I was eating cereal. It was that,
Wow.
and it was just a normal uh, level of communication from the city, basically saying, "Hey, there's a storm, there's a storm," but it wasn't anything that we haven't heard before. So it was one of those dynamics that, okay, well, this is going to be a windstorm, rainstorm, nothing really big. And then at that moment, it was surreal when the mayor said, "Look, you guys need to get out of there. Like, it's time to go." And I've never heard it that way. I've always heard that you need to buckle down, have all your supplies, and we're going to have some flooding, but it's not going to be that bad. We've experienced this before, and it still wasn't really resonated with me at the time that it was like evacuate. But it was a certain tone and it was a certain atmosphere that I felt when it happened. So at that moment, I didn't feel the sense of urgency until, at the time my wife was like, "Listen, I think we need to get out of here." And in my head, I was like, "Well, let's just pack a few things and get out of town for a little bit, and we're going to be right back. No issues, no worries." And at the time, that's kind of what happened.
Wow. And so, of course, we know, how long it took and the devastation that resulted, what, $180 billion. It's just pretty wild. But from a personal standpoint, what did you lose physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
Yeah, I think for me, given that we took that moment for granted, because, like I said, we only had packed a few things, not necessarily packing for a long time. We packed just to possibly we're going for a week, and we'll treat it like a vacation almost. So let's go towards Texas. Now, of course, because of that announcement of everybody leaving, it was a mass exodus. So it took us what would have taken us, let's say 4 to 5 hours to get to Houston. It took us 16 hours to get to Houston.
Mm.
And so because of it was just bumper to bumper traffic, all you saw was red lights. And I'm telling you, it was all the way from New Orleans, all the way into Houston, where you saw red lights. So it was really
Wow.
16 hours getting there. Um, so so feeling that in my head, I'm like, well, that's just as a result of the fact that the announcement was made. But what I lost, once everything was over, we got a chance to get back to New Orleans. It took a lot longer than I anticipated. It actually took us what I thought was going to be a week. It took us 18 months
Mm.
to get back to New Orleans because the reports, you couldn't come in, all the flooding, all the looting. There was just a chaos. Found out that I lost my entire house. It was 12 feet of water. Everything was devastated. We had to flatten out the house, and we had to start the rebuilding process from that point.
Okay. And then after that, it took how long to actually rebuild and get, I guess, somewhat back to normal?
Yeah, back to normal. I don't know if there was even a way to think through what normal was considered. Like at that point, how do you get back to normal? Given that we've never seen this level of devastation, it wasn't just a fire for one house and it jumped to another house. You literally went into um, almost like you walked into a war zone because everything was just damaged. Everything was one color, and
Mm.
it probably I would tell you it probably took at least I would say maybe about 5 years before normal was considered normal.
Five
Meaning,
years. Yeah.
yeah, it just took a long time only because you had to get settled. You had to figure out another place to live. you had to figure out what is real stability at this point, because everything, all the services, businesses, everything was basically being rebuilt and things like that. So normal wasn't normal anymore. It's just had to adjust based on where you were and where you had to operate. So.
And did you, at any point, did you think about just not coming back? And then also, because you grew up in the Ninth Ward, were there some of your neighbors that didn't come back?
So at the time that it happened, I was living, I grew up in the Ninth Ward, in the Florida Housing Project. So I was in what they call the Upper Nine, and then you have the Lower Nine, right? Where the Lower Nine was pretty much that's where all the media attention went because of all the damage and things that are happening in the Lower Nine. But the Upper Nine is where the projects were, where you had the Florida Project, Desire Project, and the rest of the Ninth Ward community. At the time, I lived in Gentilly, which was in Pontchartrain Park.
Okay.
And basically it was all destroyed. My house got this. I had a 2-story house. My house was demolished. My neighbors, on the other hand, some of them, their houses were built out of. They didn't have that much of a structural damage, meaning that the water sat, but it didn't cause any subsidence that compromised their foundation. So some of them kept their structural integrity, the house in place, and they were just able to just rebuild and keep things in place. My house, on the other hand, had some subsidence. Foundation got compromised, so everything had to get torn down. But the area was just devastated completely.
Okay. So you're back in the community. How did entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs play a role in rebuilding that community?
That's a great question. I think that psychologically, when you think about what normalcy looks like, being able to go and go shopping at a grocery store, or when you're looking for a burger, or you're looking for some type of something to bring you back to some level of normalcy. There were entrepreneurs in the area that, man, the level of resilience was amazing. There were maybe a couple places, I would say Neo's Cafe. They were in place. They came back, they were serving food. I'm not sure how she did it. I mean, I'm sure her name is Tanya, and seeing that in that area, and with everything being destroyed, everything, like I said, was this brown color with this brackish water, seeing her in place gave some level of fight. Like, okay, I think we can figure this thing out. If Tanya can do this, and she's working with all the lights off, and she's got, stoves using wood and going back to the, Stone Age to serve people and serve first responders and people that are coming in to help. That was amazing. And it just gave some level of hope that we can probably figure this thing out. So there were sparks of light in different areas. It wasn't everywhere, but it was just those little things that helped understand that, we probably can come back.
Right. So prior to Katrina, you had a business idea called Bypasslines. So I'd love to hear, your journey prior to Katrina, getting, the business, trying to get it off the ground. And then after Katrina, how did it impact your business?
Absolutely. We started off as Bypasslines started off as an idea with online order. Early on, there was no real network. I wasn't a coder, just had an idea. And I'm pretty technical in how I approach things, really methodical in what I do and putting things on paper. Sometimes I'm not what's called analysis paralysis, but I'm one of those people that if I'm thinking about it, I'm actually going to do it. I'm not just sitting on it. And sometimes that's to my detriment because I will leap, man. I'm jumping. I get an idea, I'm ready to go. So I had the idea, and at the time I hadn't met my partner yet, but I had the idea, and just when I had basically put some level of semblance of the idea together with the coding and a working model, I met up with Sharon, and we went into beta. We started signing people up with a concept, literally on paper. We had 200 restaurants.
Wow.
All ready to go. And we had one or two that was somewhat operational. They were getting, what's funny is that the way the model was working, folks didn't go online. They would call in, and the order, the way the answer machine would work, the order would go to the owner's phone as an email. And he got a text message to see that there was an order. So I was able to get that type of model in place, and he loved it at the time it was happening, but it was intermittent. So sometimes he would get the order, sometimes he won't. And so the person would show up and they were like, well, I put in the order, and he's like, I didn't get it. But we were just working through the kinks at the time. And but we had about 200 restaurants ready to roll, and then Katrina hit. And that basically shut everything down. And like I think we talked about before, it was a gift, it was a blessing, and then it was a curse. It stopped us in our tracks, which is horrible. But then I think it gave us the opportunity to really spend time on really working through all the problems that we had, that we were experiencing at the time.
You know, there really wasn't DoorDash and Uber Eats before then. So how did you come up with this idea? And I mean, when we know, you know, New Orleans is known for its food. So, and even just going to the restaurants is an experience. So why were you creating this business?
It was, honestly, I'm just impatient. I'm super impatient, man. I think I'm diagnosed with ADHD, man. I just don't, I don't want to wait. I'm ready to, if I'm ready to get something, I want to go get it. And I want to find a solution for it. Keith, listen.
Wow.
I'm not one of these people that I'm waiting for someone else to find the solution. I'm the guy that's going to figure out, well, okay, I can't do this. I wonder how I can do that, right? And so standing in line, checking out, and there was a lot of people at the time. I'm waiting on this particular thing, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way for me to get what I want. I got to go other places. Man, if I could just order, or I thought about a hollering system. Can I holler at somebody and they just get my order? But that, of course, that wouldn't work, right? So I was thinking, like, how can I figure out a way to come up with a concept that would work? And at the time, I was building apps just as a hobby, and I was just trying to find a solution. Like, okay, if I can do something on an app and send something to the person that's taking the order, I can bypass all these people, a la Bypasslines, right? Bypasslines.
Right.
That's where the concept came from. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And so then, of course, then Katrina hits and it changes. It gives you more time to reiterate and get the kinks out. But was there any other challenges, you know, launching the business after Katrina?
One thing that really devastated my business, like I said, I'm not a coder, but I became one. Here's the biggest thing about entrepreneurs is that when they start with an idea, the biggest issue is resources. Is really identifying what do I need to get me to the result that I'm looking for. Resources is paramount. to any entrepreneur on every level. I was one of those guys that what was challenging is that I'm in a new area. I had some idea of what I wanted to do in New Orleans. Now I'm living in Texas. My house is destroyed. I don't have all the resources to make that work. Now I'm trying to, I'm thinking about this business. I'm trying to figure out how and what and who to talk to. So that was the biggest challenge, just the onslaught of this devastation that occurred that caused my entire thought process of who and how and what I can do to get this business going outside of all the personal stuff that was happening to me at the time. So it took an extreme amount of time before we were able to get things going again because of the fact that trying to identify all the resources, people starting to now figure out what funding is available, what departments are available, what other businesses and nonprofits or whatever that would help these entrepreneurs or help me get this business going. So the whole landscape changed. Folks that was in place to possibly help you, they were no longer available. People started changing their names. So what you thought was one time a resource to help you, it was a completely different name, a different set of people, different type of process. All of these things had changed. So identifying what those resources were, that was the biggest challenge for me.
Okay. I guess, but on the flip side, how did you rely on your resiliency, I guess, to get you to the point where you're at now?
I think it came down to, I had a father who was, he had an 8th grade education. Never knew that he was in that predicament, meaning that this guy had this level of education. This guy always had a business, had food trucks. He was a DJ, had snowball stands, had a pie business. You never knew that he had all these things piled up against him. Never had a complaining day. Always moved with some strategic plan. And I saw that. That was my example. So, okay, we got a storm that happened. Okay, the house was destroyed. Okay, we got to figure this thing out. So it's just, I never saw where devastation happened and you just give up and you just stop, or you just keep walking. And so for me, I'm not sure if everyone else, but for me, it was my example that I received when I was younger, that my dad was one of these people that just was a grand hustler, man. He found ways to make it work, never really put a lot of emphasis on why it's not working. He put a lot of emphasis on, let's just make it work. I didn't hear him complain about it. He didn't make a big deal about it. It just happened. So that's been my attitude from day one, man. Just make it happen. Figure it out.
I heard about the snowballs down in New Orleans. I saw a food documentary. I was like, oh man, they look so good, because it's the way, I guess the way the shaved ice is. It's not like the snow cones. I lived in Texas, so we had snow cones, not snowballs.
Same thing, man. But I tell you,
them snowballs,
we put our flavor on ours.
So fine. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
We put our flavor on ours, man. We got our
awesome. So what would you say? What is the secret sauce of Bypasslines, and how has the business changed over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. The secret sauce was more of the fact that we were very flexible in adjusting to the different type of food vendors that we were able to help. Most of the online ordering platforms that were started to come into existence was more for the, let's say, standalone brick and mortar type restaurant vendors, or restaurants that were out there. Sit down. They wanted to have some type of to-go service. So now they were able to just have online ordering. Orders went to the kitchen. What made us unique at right now, what made us unique is that we were able to apply online ordering to food trucks, to caterers, to independent folks that were working out of their house. It gave them the ability to have some level of technology right now. They didn't have to wait till they got an establishment to have online ordering. All they needed was a business, and if they wanted to serve food and they wanted to have a technological way of reaching people, we provided that platform for them. So that was our secret sauce. How we manifest it now is that we're introducing AI. So you don't have to answer the phone. Matter of fact, you don't have to have a phone, but you can have a person that can answer the phone, take an order, ask any complex questions that are needed, and be able to get orders into the owner and into their kitchen without them having to answer any phones or take up time to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that means you're actively competing with the giants, I guess, of like DoorDash and Uber Eats. Is that correct?
So the way we look at it is we are not looking to compete. We want to provide a unique, I say, assist them in whatever their goals are to try and reach their particular result. So a lot of our folks that we're working with, they have Uber Eats, they have DoorDash, they have a lot of these other folks in place right now.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
each one of those have their own audience. What we try to do is then look at the front of the house. Well, they may have a bunch of orders in, and yes, those orders will come through Uber Eats and go to the kitchen. But then they have a lot of orders that are happening on the phone, and they have people that are walking in. What we try to do is streamline that and eliminate the need of them having to service the person in front of them and then try to take a phone call or phone order. And that way they can eliminate having to answer the phone. They could just service the person right in front. Person can call the establishment and get an order in without them having to miss a beat.
Gotcha. So, so you must have called one time and you were on hold for about 15 minutes and you were like, no, this ain't working.
That's me all day, man.
I want to just put in my order for my gumbo so I can be out of here.
That's right. I've missed, listen, I've called enough where I've gotten dial tones or nobody's answering the phone. I've called enough where somebody said, oh, can you hold, please? And I didn't even say my name. I didn't say anything. They just get on the phone. Can you hold, please? And I'm on hold for like another 10 minutes. And then they come back and they can't hear me, or I didn't hear you, or whatever. It's always something that happens. And I've placed orders where the order didn't actually come out right because they didn't hear me or I said it wrong. I'm from New Orleans, so I might have said etouffee. They might have said A2 something. I don't know, but it ends up coming out wrong. Well, yeah, that's right. So I've done that enough to be able to say, well, I need to find a solution for that. And we have.
Gotcha. Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I make gumbo myself, so, you know.
Well, you got, you got me what kind you make though. You got okra, they got seafood, they got.
No, so I like okra myself. But
okay.
The rest of the fam does not. So I don't put the okra in, but it is seafood gumbo. I got the chicken, the sausage, and all that good stuff. So yeah, and the crab. So there you go.
Nice. Nice.
So since this is you know, this series dealing with it, and this is kind of my Pinnacle of Color series. So I just because you're in the community has like an influx of men of color taken to entrepreneurship to help build the community that you've seen? And if not, why not? Why haven't they stepped to the forefront to help rebuild the community?
I think it's I think when you think through what does that look like, when you think about men, Black men coming in and doing their thing, and being leaders, or coming in and being as present, you know, as they need to, or as they should, as part of the community rebuild. I think that a lot of there hasn't been a whole influx of Black men coming in to assist. However, there have been key Black men coming in, where it's not a abundance, but there are those that come in, from politicians to community leaders. There's a few restaurants that have opened. Black men have opened different Jamaican restaurants, different African type restaurants, and they've been in the community. Some of the politicians have been Black men, have shown up and have showed out. I mean, being a part of the inner workings of rebuild and mental health services and things like that. I find that there are people that Black men have been in the trenches now. You see those faces over and over again. It's always amazing if more can come in, but the ones that have showed up have done an amazing job. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I know we have just a few more minutes. So for the young people, and jobs right now are very challenging. We're in some very difficult times, but folks especially the young people in New Orleans may have some great business ideas, and they may think about starting a business. And then I'm thinking more, because you have the local feel, what are some things that they would need to do in order to ensure that they are successful?
Get out of thinking that you need anyone or any additional resources in today's environment to be successful. And I'm going to clarify why I say that.
Okay.
You in today's environment, you have all these free tools. It may not feel like you have the audience or the following. You have the tool, and you have an algorithm. I say, turn on the camera and just film. Turn on the camera and just talk. Turn on the camera and just give what you have to the world. Now, it's going to take time.
Right.
It's going to take effort. But what I say is that now you don't have to wait for anything. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, especially TikTok, has been just incredible for so many people, that being able to just share your idea over and over and over again has created a number of opportunities that otherwise no other platform has provided. And just to give you one example, I've been in a situation where I, again, just to test out the idea of creating what they call a faceless channel. And I came up with a concept of Business Go-Getter. It's a channel where I brought in just information about different business opportunities for folks and different things that they can do online to make money. So I created the channel. And what's interesting, Keith, is that within about a 3 to 5 month time frame, that channel went from, it started off with maybe 10 people. It's now up to 38,000 within a short amount of time. And it's all because people are looking for ways to make some kind of money, an online effort. So it's what I now understand is that this is a more of a microwave society, and TikTok and those Instagram components for the young folks can be super opportunity provides so many different opportunities for them that they otherwise would see just through traditional ways. Things have changed a lot.
Wow. Yeah, everybody can. I may have to call you about that. But that could change the game, and I mean that would just really equalize a lot of things because everyone's got a phone. Everyone has that opportunity to do that. It's just that's a grind it out because that's what people have to do.
Yeah, between what I've seen and this is and I got another test that I'm getting ready to actually put into play. Because of the AI agents that we're doing. I'm creating a channel of conversation about AI on the YouTube space. Basically, not necessarily a podcast, but more or less just me talking about different things as I feel it. I'm not an expert at all, but just as I feel it, I'll put it up on the channel. And the goal really is, how do you become an authority? And for the young folks, it's just, you don't have to be, you just have to get out of yourself. Don't think about it, just talk. And if you're having a particular position about an idea, share it. I guarantee you, there's over 1 billion people in the world. You're gonna get a nice amount of people that's gonna share your position. And that's where your audience gets built.
That's
and
where it happens.
I tell you, that's where it happens, man. That's where it happens.
Well, I know we're pressed for time and we could probably talk longer.
Oh, absolutely.
But I know Spencer, thank you for dropping in. And I guess since you're more of a B2B organization, how can folks find you if they want to use Bypasslines?
Absolutely. There's a couple ways. Instagram, Bypasslines app. That's Bypasslines app, at Bypasslines app. You can go to bypasslines.com. You can always drop me something in Facebook, Bypasslines at Bypasslines, or LinkedIn. Either one of those, you can drop something into those areas. DM me. My personal Instagram is SD Nola. That's S with a D, Nola, Nola. And always you can reach out and we can talk shop or figure out ways we can work together and make some magic.
Great.
When Hurricane Katrina hit, it didn't just flood streets, it flooded dreams. But as we heard from Spencer today, even in the deepest waters, he refused to sink. He rebuilt, not just a home and a business, but belief in himself and his community, and in the idea that what's broken can be born again, stronger than before. And that's what this podcast was all about. It's about what happens after the storm. It's about the courage to start over when you've lost everything but your will. It's about ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they had no other choice but to rise. So as you go about your day, I'll leave you with 2 questions to sit with. When everything you've built is washed away, what part of you still stands strong enough to rebuild? And if resilience can be learned through loss, what could you create if you face your own storms with the same courage? This is Keith Dent from the Black Men Speak podcast. Peace.